Well, good Tuesday evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. It's been a little while, a minute or two before, since we've wrapped at you, but it's great to be back and lots of great content tonight to talk about, and can't wait to dive right in. Thanks, everybody, for joining live. If you are joining live, if you're on replay, that's great too. Feel free to subscribe to the channel. Hit that little logo in the bottom right corner, or like this video. It all helps get this bowling content in front of more people, which is really the goal here, to celebrate the characters in our game and the greatness of our sport of bowling. A couple things I want to get to before we bring our guest on. We had a unique experience about a week and a half ago in Waterloo, Iowa, where I live streamed an NCAA women's collegiate bowling tournament, the NCAA Peacock Classic at Cadillac XBC in Waterloo, Iowa. If you had a chance to see it, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you who tuned in, gave it a chance. There were 3 days of competition. Like I said, it was a great tournament, ended in a best of 7 thriller in which Marian University of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, took a 3-1 lead on Valparaiso, but Valparaiso came storming back. They ended up winning the title. It was incredible to see there in person. I hope it was incredible for those of you who got to see it live. And here's what the champs had to say right after they took that title.
This is the first time for us in a little while as a program, and I think the players just got a little tight. We were bowled great the first set. We didn't bowl under 200, so I knew we were capable. We had a line. We just got nervous. It's the first time been in a championship pairing in a while, so I think they just needed to relax, and then credit to them, they did, and they threw great shots the rest of the way out.
I was struggling. I definitely was struggling with hitting my target, kind of like seeing like the lanes and seeing the ball motion correctly. So I think my main goal was just to like kind of like get away with spares, like not necessarily like throwing strikes, but throwing the best ball I can and hopefully getting a spare.
It's always good to win. You never want to take it for granted. So to be the first is something special. So, obviously this tournament will continue to grow. Nicole's going to do a great job. So to say you're the first to win it, it's a big deal. And we're going to be very proud of it for quite some time.
Big congratulations to Coach Washington and Valparaiso University. Like I said, the winners of the 2022 Peacock Classic. They had a 12-1 match play record, 12,350 total pins. And Caitlin Cavender, who you saw in that interview, was the individual all-tournament MVP. She shot 1,200 for 6 games on what really appeared to me to be a pretty demanding condition for those athletes. So congrats to her and everyone who took part in putting on the first Peacock Classic in Waterloo, Iowa. And my thanks, of course, to Upper Iowa University, Nicole DePaul, for taking a chance on me, really, and letting me come in, do some live streaming, and had some great interviews in there too. Coach Miller from Marian was in the stream, coach from Carroll University in Waukesha, and of course Coach Washington with his champion Valparaiso University team. So I really hope you had a chance to check it out. If you didn't, it is on the channel in replay form, 3 different pages on the YouTube channel, so feel free to check it out or relive it if you got to see it once before. Another thing I wanted to point out was another live stream, not on my channel, but one called 10 Pin Life. And if you follow bowling live streaming, you've probably seen Ben and 10 Pin Life. And he did a live stream of the Great Lakes Bowling Conference over the weekend. They were at Wausau, or Weston, I should say, which is outside of Wausau, Wisconsin. Beautiful house. And the GLBC is a college conference. It has teams from Wisconsin and some of the surrounding states. But on that stream, Ben said, when I commented, he said he thinks I'm going to become one of the most trusted names in bowling media here within a short amount of time, which just blew me away. Coming from him, that means a lot, and I'm really glad that he said it. Ben's channel is tremendous. He recently interviewed Matt Russo. A lot of great content on 10 Pin Life. His focus is a little different than ours here, But like I've said before, we all of us content creators kind of mesh together and create a rich experience for those of you who consume this kind of content. So I'd encourage you to check it out. 10 Pin Life, go ahead and check out his YouTube channel. He's got a podcast. Subscribe and enjoy, because Ben Glasscock over there is putting out some tremendous content. As you know, if you've seen this show before, Bowling with the Pfeff is brought to you by Chip Magnet Salsa. Chip Magnet is a local company. They are right down the road from me in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, a family business distributing quality salsas, relishes, and more in 38 states and Canada. Of course, in the Eau Claire area, you can find it at a bunch of local stores. Milwaukee, you get it at places like Sendik's and Woodman's. They don't have it in grocery stores in New Jersey just yet, but there is good news, because they do distribute and take orders online. You go to chipmagnetsalsa.com and pick out your favorite flavor. You will not go wrong with Chip Magnet. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. So let's get into our guest tonight. And our guest tonight is another bowling content creator that, of course, I'm happy to bring on. And I love bringing on content creators in the bowling game. He is Mike Valanzano, and he is got his microphone muted. There we go. From New Jersey. And Mike, it is a pleasure to have you on, one half of the content giants known as the Bone and Zano Zone. How are you doing tonight?
It's here somewhere, Mr. Pfeff. How are you?
Really good. Great to have you on, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. I got to ask about the jersey, first of all. You're a Mets guy, aren't you? And those are the colors.
This is a custom-made Met jersey. It has several years of tears in it, and it is a long-suffering relationship I have with this team. I bleed the blue and orange, and it is just, it's a thing. I consider myself a born loser rooting for the Mets.
Yeah. It's a tough business to be in sometimes. One of our previous guests, Joe Buckles, he is also a Mets fan, and he kind of, dabbles with the Brewers and the Mets, so he gets it, twice as hard. But no, I totally get it, because I'm a huge baseball guy myself, and that's awesome that you've got, the custom jersey with your show's logo and all that good stuff on it too. I am going to take a calculated risk here and kind of lob you something that we didn't really talk about previously. But I noticed on your Facebook page, you posted that today is the High Roller Anniversary Day, something from 2004. Care to elaborate?
So 2004 was the first year I ever went to bowl the High Roller, the Super Bowl High Roller, when it was still in existence at Sam's Town in Las Vegas. And I was 21. And back then, it was the old format where it was just, you pick your lane out of the hat, you draw your opponent, you beat him, you advance, you lose, you go home.
Okay.
So I had won my first 2 rounds, and if you won your first 2 matches, you cashed. You doubled your entry fee. So I won the first 2. I won the next match. I won the 4th round and the 5th round. And then I drew the bye for 3 consecutive rounds. Wow. So perfect. So now I'm 9 rounds in. I haven't thrown a ball. Today, February 1st, was the finals, and there were 64 guys left, and it was $75,000 for first.
Wow.
So at the time, every round that I bowled was on the burn, basically. I never saw the fresh. And I was seeing the fresh for the first time in the round of 64. So at this time, Mike Mullen, I don't know if you know who Mike Mullen is. He's a former Team USA guy from New York, really, really good player. He was the sales rep for Storm, and he was out there bowling. And I had talked to Mike, and I said, look, I haven't seen the fresh all week. Like, I don't know what to do. So he laid me out a ball. We punched it up, and we go out. And I wasn't nervous at all. And right before they turned the lights on, Brad Edelman said, ladies and gentlemen, one of these 64 players is going to be $75,000 richer at the end of the day. You have 5 minutes of practice. And all of a sudden, my knees were like this. And I hadn't missed a spare all week. And I used the ball that Mullen drilled, and it kind of read the lane pretty good. And then in the 9th frame of the match, I left the rail. And I just totally whiffed it, and I chopped it. And my opponent got up, doubled, sent me packing. No big deal. And I like to play cards a lot. So when I play poker, if I give my chips to somebody and they kind of like waste them off and give them away, it really ticks me off. In this case, the guy in the next round drew Andrew Kane.
Oh.
Okay, so the guy that I beat me rather, his name was Dennis Laster from Indiana. I will never forget it. Dennis Laster was his name. I have the video in my entertainment center still. But
Oh.
Dennis Laster drew Andrew Kane in the next round. He bowled 127 in the next round,
Oh.
and I was like on suicide watch. So that is my anniversary of the high roller, and I gave myself a chance to win the high roller. I thought, and there's my anniversary.
Isn't it better to have contended and lost than never to have contended at all, though?
It is, and you know what? And back then, the tournaments out in Vegas, like the Mega Buck scene, was just so much different than it is now.
Yeah.
You used to bowl the roller at Samstown, the eliminator at the Orleans, and then the tat, or it used to be the tack. Now it's the tat over at Texas Station. So you used to bowl all around town for a week, and it was just boom here, squad at the Orleans, squad at Texas, and you did this all week long. The prize funds were so great, and now there's one game in town, the tat, which the McWilliams family do a great job, but it's not the same. The talent's not the same, and even the level of bowlers, like the bowlers aren't the same out there. I mean, I didn't live the Mega Bucks days of like Barnes and Mike Newman and all those guys in the mid '90s. But when I got out there, I saw Bill O'Neill was bowling. We had guys like that. We saw Belmo out there. We saw Oscar out there. Just now, it's just not the same anymore. And with the prize money being so much less, it doesn't really, tickle my fancy anymore to go out there.
Sure. Yeah. And I would assume a lot of other folks who don't live in that general area are probably thinking the same thing about a tournament like that. Let's face it, you're going to invest a lot just to get out there, let alone to compete.
Exactly. But you know what? It's an experience, and I loved it. And I'm never going to have that what if moment. Was I did it?
Yep.
Did I win the tournament? No, but I gave myself a chance, and I competed against the best bowlers, in the world, if you want to call it that, for that week. And something I'll never forget. I got the video still. So every year on the first, I was popping in and just make me realize how bad I was shooting the rail.
Well, as we're talking about some of the best in the world, that's a great segue into what's going on today in the world of bowling. And that's day one of the U.S. Open. You've got a couple squads down. Anthony Simonson leading things, E.J. Tackett, Andrew Anderson, Sam Cooley rounding out the top four so far. Of course, there's another squad to go, but give me your insight on the U.S. Open. What do you think about it these days? You've had the chance to see, the diagrams of some of the patterns. You've seen the pros posting their arsenals online. What do you think of the U.S. Open?
Do you really want me to put the gloves down and tell you my opinion?
Hey, put it out there, man.
It's not the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
It's the U.S. Invitational is what it is. The U.S. Open exactly is what it is. The Open. It's open to anybody. Now it's a selected field of 115 players.
Yeah.
Invitation only. Prior champions have to bowl the PTQ to get into the main squad. I mean, that's ridiculous. I understand that bowling's going in a different direction. I get that. But it's the U.S. Open. And for years, it was at Carolier, one of my centers that I grew up at here in Jersey, and 480 guys every year with a waiting list to get in. 480 bowlers. Even when it was out in California, Fountain Bowl, 480 bowlers. When it was a Woodland, same thing. Why is it now you're making it a selected field of 115? And a guy that's won the tournament, if they're not on the invitation list, you have to bowl the PTQ. That's not the U.S. Open. And they make them the dual patterns every day. They're almost impossible. The Open should be hard to begin with. And at Carolier, for those years, I bowled in it twice. They were 40 feet 1-to-1, flat, just miserably hard. That's what it should be. You shouldn't have it where one day is going to be soft. Then tomorrow, the guys get the 1-to-1, 37 feet, which is just going to be pull your hair out and grind away. And then you kind of throw them a cookie on day 3 where they're almost 2-to-1. So coming off of 1-to-1 and going to 2-to-1, the scores would be through the roof.
Yeah.
That's not what it is. It's just not the same feel anymore. And that's my take on it.
Sure. So let me follow up with this then. So if it's a different event, does that give more value or more credence to the guys like my favorite of all time, Dave Husted, who won it in the old format?
He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's a legend. Very underrated too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's a good point you make. I don't think it doesn't take anything away from it. It's still the U.S. Open, no matter how you look at it. But again, Houston beat how many hundreds of guys in the field, right?
Mhm.
Even when he won his last one in '96, he beat a couple hundred guys. You're now, Chris Vi won it last year, I think, right? It was Chris Vi won the U.S. Open last year.
Chris Vi.
What did he beat? 100 guys, and nothing away from taking anything away from those 100, but you beat 100 guys. You know, you're not getting. I don't say he didn't get tested, but he didn't get tested. You know, and that's the whole thing. The U.S. Open, it should be open to anybody that meets the criteria to bowl in the event. Period. Just like the Masters. If you have a USBC card and you meet the average requirement, you bowl the Masters. The U.S. Open should be no different. Or even going further back from what I've been told, there used to be qualifiers to bowl in the U.S. Open. You know, and I know a close friend of mine, he bowled on tour, Sam Macarone. Sammy, I think he said his first time he ever bowled the Open, he qualified through a qualifier, like a local qualifier, just like in golf's U.S. Open, and he got his way into the field. Why can't we do that? The U.S. Open should not be 100-person max field. That's just ridiculous. Absolutely. It does kind of take away from it, you know, from the history of it. If you even go back further, in 1971, it became the U.S. Open, and it was the All-Star. The All-Star was a 100-game format tournament open to anybody in the country, 100 games. And the guys today, they couldn't bowl 100 games. They couldn't. So it does take a little bit of it away. Yeah.
My knee hurts just thinking about bowling 100 games in
absolutely.
less than a season, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Then, you know, we move on to the latest tournament that's finished on the PBA Tour, and that's the Players' Championship. Oh my gosh, all the storylines and Belmo coming back, et cetera, et cetera. Wow. Is there a way that you can kind of compartmentalize all that into a little, you know, minute and a half long nugget and tell me your thoughts on what you saw there? I mean, you know, I watched all those shows and I'm like, wow, I'm just thanking my lucky stars that I get to see that on TV again.
Let me ask you a question then.
Sure.
In the first match, did you think anybody was going to beat Graham Faw with the look he had?
No, I didn't. I mean,
said the same thing.
He was locked in, and you know,
he had it.
Yeah, he really did.
I said the same thing. I'm like, there's no way this guy's he's not gonna lose. Mm-hmm. He was all by himself. He created his own transition. He didn't have to worry about, you know, who's left of him, who's right of him. He was by himself. Yep. He lost the right lane. He didn't make the move fast enough. You know, it is what it is. But I think the PBA got what they wanted. They wanted the Belmonte Rash final. The only thing that would have made it better is if the seeding round would have went like this. Then this is how I think. Let's just say the opening match was Belmonte Rash. Okay. Or Belmonte Rash, and then it goes right to Tommy Jones in the next match. Mm-hmm. So you had 4 or 5 Belmo Rash, and then you go to TJ in the third, and qualified third. Was Tommy was very outspoken on the incidents from the previous couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
So I think in one way the PBA wanted the ratings, and the ratings were through the roof. I just read an article about that.
Yeah.
But they got what they wanted. They got the biggest rivalry on tour for the past decade in a great match, and the best bowler in the world prevailed, as he should.
Yeah. How about the fact that we got a live televised event on a Saturday night? That's kind of atypical, isn't it?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And the ratings were, like I said, the ratings were through the roof on it. And bowling should be, you know, in that spot. Maybe not at 8:30 at night. It's a little bit late for some people that are old.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's exactly where it should be. And it's good that we're getting the recognition that we deserve. And I also think that Sean kind of kept his mouth shut during the week. They had to ask him about smoking gun on the show. Mm-hmm. They had to.
Sure.
And I think that's why everybody tuned in. What's he going to say? What's he going to do? Is he going to lose it again? That was a great segue into watching the show, what you didn't know what Rash was going to do.
Right.
You know, was a loose cannon. How is he going to act? Especially knowing he had a bowl Belmo in the title match. You didn't know what was going to happen. So everybody was tuned in, but great show. And I love the players format. I really like that, you know, by the region and the seating around. That is a great concept. It really is.
Yeah. And, you know, I hope that one of these times, if they keep doing it, that I'll have the chance to go see the Midwest region in Milwaukee. Couldn't do it this year, but that's about a 4-hour drive for me, so it's not horrible. But one of these days. And hey, we've got the World Series of Bowling coming up in Milwaukee, and I'm going to try and get down to that too.
And you're fantastic with your live stream. I watched the college one that you just mentioned earlier. You are fantastic on the microphone. You should, I mean, not for nothing, but anybody can do a better job than Randy's color partner. But look, I'll be honest with you. I mean, look, it is what it is. But you do a fantastic job behind the mic. You're a very talented individual. You really are, and you're great for the sport. You have a passion for it, so you have the right mindset for it.
We all do, don't we? You know, that's the beauty of all this is that, you know, we're all kind of in the same club, right?
Yeah, we're just bowlers. I mean, what are you gonna do?
Pretty much. That bowling passion for you had to start somewhere, sometime. So let's kind of take a trip down memory lane and start out with how and where and when you got started in the sport of bowling.
So it was always in my family. My mother and my grandfather bowled, and as the legend goes, I've been told, I went to go watch my mother bowl league, and I was kind of hooked on it. So I guess the following week or so, she had went to the store and got me the plastic set of pins and would set it up in our hallway. And I never liked using the little plastic ball. I ended up using my dog's softball. The dog had a big softball for a chew toy, and I would throw that down the hall. I mean, just for hours at a time, I got told.
Wow.
And it's funny, but I was watching the show with Rob Piershad today that you did with Rob a while back.
Oh, yeah.
And how Rob said he was a two-hander. So I wasn't a two-hander, but I slid off the wrong foot when I was a kid. So right-handed, I would slide off the right foot. And that was partially because I learned how to bowl from my grandfather who played bocce. So in Italy, bocce, you slide off the right foot when you throw it, and that's kind of how I learned. And I did that maybe till I was, I want to say, 11 years old. And I used to hang out at the local bowling center. And there was a guy there who always gave lessons, and he was Dick Ricker certified. And he always told me, he goes, you know, you need to learn how to slide off the left foot. And I didn't know. I'm 11 years old. I didn't know anything. And one summer, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And I worked the whole summer, and I became, instead of being wrong foot, I went to sliding off the left foot, and then it just kind of escalated from there. And I kind of like self-taught myself how to bowl. My mom gave me enough pointers to get me to a certain point. And then we were up at Carolier watching the Johnny Petraglia Open one year. And we knew of said local guy who was bowling in the tournament, local guy from around here. And she said, well, go up to him and, you know, let him sign your pin, right? And ask him if he gives lessons. I'm not going to go. I was 12. I'm petrified. I'm not going to go up to anybody and ask for a lesson or whatnot. Well, I'll take care of the rest. And she went into the bar. The guy was there, signed the pin. And he came out, introduced himself. And it was Parker.
Oh, wow.
And that's how, and that's how the friendship with him started. So Mom got me to a certain point, and then I started working with Parker and becoming really friendly and close with him. And the rest is kind of history. And he's one of my, not even like my role model, but one of my best friends in the world. So I owe a lot of everything that I am to him. And that's kind of my journey in bowling so far. We've gone through the high school ranks, the college ranks. I dabbled in the high roller stuff, bowled some regionals here and there. It's just a passion. I think we all have it. You know, it doesn't pay my bills. It's a hobby. You know, it's a night out to bowl league. It's an occasional tournament. It's just a hobby. But, you know, if you don't bowl, you don't understand what we have deep down inside. And nobody does. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how I've developed.
Yeah. Tell me about that first meeting with Parker. Is Parker at that point the Hall of Fame Parker Bone III, you know, superstar that we all know now, or was he still coming up through the ranks?
No, he was already established. He was probably just like around 94, 95. So he was already established out there, and, you know, everybody knew who he was. He wasn't the superstar that he became, but, you know, he was still that guy. And, you know, it was like going up to Alex Rodriguez and asking for an autograph or whatnot. You know, that's how I felt. And knowing that he lived or bowled at the center that was 20 minutes up the road from me, I was still kind of nervous. I'd see him there. I didn't want to talk to him. I was like a little kid. Mm-hmm. And my mother told me, you know, you good to go talk to him. So I'm going to talk to him. And then she did everything. And we used to practice at Howell Lanes. He gave me some lessons and whatnot. And it just kind of festered out, you know, and as he grew, it was really cool, you know, watching my friend on TV and just really just explode. Was the mid to late 90s is kind of when he took off.
Mhm.
And it was really cool watching him take off, and now, looking back at it, it's just phenomenal. And now I bowl with his kids. I bowl with his wife in the same team in league,
Okay.
and Parker our team sub, and to me, it's really neat because I idolized him growing up, and now I have the chance to bowl in adult juniors with his kids. And it's almost like an honor of like, hey, bowl with Justin or bowl with Brandon or whatnot. And it's really cool that they, respect me enough to bowl with their kids because of the name that they are.
Yeah. Parker, of course, came on our show a little while back. I talked to him in the early 2000s when I was in a TV job in Wausau. Nicest guy in the world. But what I recall from that interview more recently was he talked about how hard he had to work, how much the coaching that he had to get to the point where he could start competing professionally, and et cetera, et cetera. How often did you bowl when you got into juniors and when you were in maybe a junior program or before high school?
I started working at a bowling center when I was 16. So I was very fortunate because the more I worked there, I just had free practice. And I would work, 6 hours, whatever it was, and I'd go bowl 40 games a day. And if we're going to talk about people that were also influential growing up, another one, I went to school with Johnny Petraglia Jr.
Oh.
So I've known the Petraglia family since I've been 8 years old. John and I bowled juniors together forever, and John would come and practice with me at my place, and then I'd go up to Carolier and practice with him and whatnot. So, I mean, every day it was just nonstop. It was work, bowl, practice, sleep, repeat the next day.
Yeah.
And as I got older in high school, I was fortunate enough to kind of assistant manager of the center. I had keys to the center. So once we would close the building down, I learned how to use the oil machine, hit the button, run a pair, and I'd bowl during the night when nobody was there. I mean, all the time. And that's all I ever wanted to do was just bowl. And I told my mom, I said, my dream is to get a motorhome and go bowl on tour full time and travel the country. It never happened, but that's what I aspired to do. And like I said, it was just nonstop bowling as much as I could. It didn't matter. That's all I ever wanted to do. Like I kind of like that was my purpose on this world, was just the bowl. Yeah. And I've gone a different direction, but it's still there.
Sure. Johnny Petraglia Jr., another great content creator. He's got a podcast called Straight Up 5, and it's definitely a different flavor than you do, than I do, but it's a great listen if you're into, let's say, the humorous side of our sport. Yeah. So building up to high school, did you have an opportunity to bowl on a high school team, or was it all individual for you at that point?
No, we had a high school team. We weren't really too good, but we bowled. I was pretty successful in the high school ranks. I was all state 3 times, couple county, all conference, and then obviously with that, I branched out and bowled JBTs, the Junior Bowlers Tour. And when I bowled JBTs, we had, and this debate always goes on of like what generation was the best of the JBTs. So when I was there, we had Bill O'Neill, we had John Van Hees, we had John Asbeatty, who's Deandra's husband. The guy from your neck of the woods, Louis Franzetti, bowled with us. I don't know if you know who Louis is, but he was there. We had a bunch of Alex Cavagnaro is another one. At the very end, when I got out, Matt O'Grady was coming up. Pepe was coming out. We had a real good group of guys who were talented. And some of them has really just escalated into tour careers, couple titles here and there. And that was it. I mean, we really took it serious. And it's a much different look now than it was years ago with junior bowling. And you're familiar, junior bowling back then, the cardinal sin was if you ever got caught bowling for $1, you lost everything. There was no such thing as sign the waiver and I can go bowl with the guys, or you can go bowl a regional on a Saturday and then you're bowling a JBT on a Sunday. You can never do that. It's so different now. I kind of wish the rules were like that when I was a kid.
Yep.
I don't like the way the rules are now because personally, I don't like the fact that a 15 or 16-year-old can come bowl my tournament and take money out of my pocket, right?
Yeah.
But I can't go bowl a JBT and take the money out of their pockets.
Yeah.
I know it goes both ways, but I don't like that. And sometimes if the child or the kid's not mature enough, they really act their age. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
I've ran into a couple times where the parents will actually get perturbed, or they get ticked off if the adult curses or does something, a more mature fashion that they're not used to. Well, you can't do that around my daughter. You can't do that around my child. Well, you're letting them bowl in that environment. You have to accept whatever's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's where the line kind of gets crossed, and that's why I personally don't like that. But that's just the way it is right now. It's different.
Yeah.
Junior bowling, in the '90s, the late '90s and 2000s, that's when it was. I mean, that's where it was. Especially here in the East Coast, we had so much talent here, and I met so many great people from bowling JBTs and whatnot. So, yeah, that was junior bowling here, and I wouldn't give it up for anything in the world, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, I mean, you and I are kind of in the same boat in parallel fashion, because I bowled on the junior tours in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and we had the same thing. You ran into Eric Vermilia, or you ran into Dave Barris, or you ran into Shannon Buchan. The Midwest was full of guys too, but it always feels like that concentration of young talent was always in those JBTs out east.
Yeah, and then we would go bowl. Now it's junior gold, but we used to bowl junior Olympic gold, jog. It used to be called. We had jog, and then the teen masters at Stonehenge and Akron. And I bowled it once. I bowled junior Olympic gold once or twice, but I bowled at the Showboat. And now how junior gold is, it's by the age category. You got your U12, U15, U18, and whatnot. It wasn't like that back then. It was just 436 boys, 384 girls bowl, and the top 10 got spots on Junior Team USA. There was no age division. There was nothing. It was just, you're a boy, you're in the boy division, the girl, you're in the girl division, and bowl and have at it. The Teen Masters was the same way. The Pepsi or the Coca-Cola Championship was another one where you qualified out of your state and then you went and whatnot. Those were really good tournaments. And you mentioned Eric Vermilia and those guys. I remember my first trip to junior gold, or jog, whatever you want to call it. Sean Rash, he was there. Scott Norden was another one. I mean, there were guys that made names for themselves now that were bowling out there. So I remember the first time I saw Rash bowl, it was like, wow. Robbie Spigner was another one from Indiana.
Yeah.
Another guy, Brian Komornick, he was there. Bowling in college, we saw Ronnie Russell, at the very end of his junior going into college, Ronnie Russell, before he went to Vincennes. So those guys, it was amazing watching these guys bowl. Like, we thought we were so good here. Johnny Petraglia Jr. and I, we won the state doubles youth title, the New Jersey state doubles title. And I don't know if it's still the record, but we bowled 16-12 scratch. And I don't know if it's still the record, but we both bowled 800. Okay. And we thought we were like, we were kings of the castle, me and Johnny. We thought our number two didn't smell here, right? and then when we went out to bowl, we bowled in Akron at the Teen Masters, and it was just like we got our teeth kicked in. Like, we thought we were so good, and then we're watching Rash and Scott Norden, and Bill O'Neill and these guys, and they're just whacking them, and like, we're not that good. Like, we got a big reality check knowing what was from other states and other parts of the country.
Yeah, I was always in my glory in juniors, and it's not because I won, it's just because it was fun. So
yeah,
if you can't have fun with that, especially in our era, I don't know what's wrong with you. But so you said the cardinal sin of junior bowling back then is bowling for $1 or more. I gotta ask, did you ever bowl action back then, or as you were growing in the game?
As a kid, no, because if I got caught, you were done. I lost all my scholarship money. And my best friend in the world, his name is Dan. He's from up in the Albany area. We knew a kid. His name was, we'll just name him Mr. X. I'm not going to throw his name out there, but my buddy Dan's watching. He knows who I'm talking about. And this is the greatest junior story in the world.
Okay.
Mr. X, we bowled juniors with him. We went to college with him in Morehead State. Great player, has a regional title. Guy's a great player. He ended up bowling an 8-game marathon in Staten Island as a junior bowler. And he had a fake ID, and he had an alter name. He said, I'm going to bowl this thing, Nobody knows who I am. Nothing's going to happen. Well, he went in there and he averaged like 250 for the 8 games, and he ran them over. Well, one person knew who he was, and he lost everything. He had over maybe like $12,000 or $13,000 in scholarships, and he lost everything. And that was just like, yeah. And I'm not going to say his first name, but his last name that his alter ego was Diamond. So Mr. Diamond. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but Mr. Diamond lost everything, and we would never do that, And my mother always told me, if you bowl for money, I'm going to chop your hand off. That's just how it was. And as soon as we turned 18, then it was different. It was fair game once you were out of that realm. But yeah, I bowled some action in New York, and I'm sure you've heard the stories of how things are in New York and Brooklyn and in the Bronx, and then even here in Jersey. But it's not the way it used to be. And, now everybody has that ego of, we're going to bowl in this pattern, or the left is good here, or I want to bowl this guy. And shut up and bowl. Put your money on the table and bowl. If you think you're better than your opponent, prove it.
Yeah.
End of story. Prove it. There should be no egos when you're bowling for $100 or $50 or whatever it is. Let your bowl do the talking. Seriously.
Sure. Yeah. What made you decide to go to Morehead State?
Johnny Petraglia Jr.
Yeah.
3 words. That is it. And I was here going to community school. I was going to community school. I was happy. I was working on the bowling center. I didn't really want to leave home. And Johnny had told me, he goes, listen, I'm going to Morehead, and we have a chance to win the national championship. He goes, we have another familiar named Dave O'Sullivan. He was Dave's down in Florida now, but Dave he was born and raised in New York. He's at Morehead. Our friend Justin from Jersey, he's down at Morehead. Mr. Diamond, Mr. X, Mr. Diamond was going down to Morehead as well. He goes,
probably paying his own way at that point.
He was paying his own way, and he goes, we have a chance to really make something down there. He goes, we all grew up together. Come with us. So I started looking into it, and lo and behold, within 2 weeks, I was registered at Morehead, and I took the trick down there, and we lived together. John and I lived together, and it was a culture shock. Being from New Jersey, going to Morehead, Kentucky, it's a different experience. But again, learned a lot down there. We never won the national championship, obviously, but had some great memories. Met a lot of great people, and like I said earlier, I saw Ronnie Russell for the first time bowling in college, and Robbie Spigner and those guys. We bowled Rash and Nathan Bohr from Wichita State. So we were able to compete against guys that really, excelled now. But Morehead was a good experience. It's just a culture shock coming from New Jersey going to Kentucky.
Yeah. When was your first year there?
2005.
Okay. And I asked because I bowled my last year was 99-2000. I bowled with UW Milwaukee my last 2 years. But in the year previous, in my junior year, 98-99, we went to the ACUI National Championships, which is like all the teams that don't make, IBCs. So we ended up there and we bowled, and we end up in the top 4. And there's like Baker games to determine a winner out of the top 4. It was us, it was UW Whitewater, it was UW Parkside, and I think Morehead State was the 4th team that year.
I wouldn't be surprised.
So it was, and it was, kind of fun because UW Whitewater did this cheer like they were the Chicago Bulls with the "what time is it game time" thing. So all 3 of us did it. We were, we all did that, and then we collapsed in Baker's. So I'm sure they finished at least 3rd because because we weren't in.
Well, if you bowled against Morehead, I'm sure you're familiar with the Morehead chant that we would do before we bowled a match. And I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm sure you know what it is.
I honestly don't remember, and if they tried to do it, I don't know if anybody heard.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. But let's just say the girls' team were on one side of the building, the guys' team on the other side of the building. Yeah, it was a very prominent question that was yelled from the girls to the guys. The guys would answer it with the answer, and that's how it would go. Well, I'm just going to leave it at that.
I was going to say, I don't know the chant, but given that description, I think I can figure it out.
My daughter's watching this, and I don't want to say what it is. So if you think really hard, I'm sure you can figure out the answer to that question.
Right. Absolutely. There'll be a test at the end of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
well
and getting back to Morehead, Kelly Kula came out, and Kelly left. She was probably the most prominent bowler that ever came out of Morehead State.
Okay.
And we learned how to bowl. We had 6 lanes on campus, no air conditioning, automatic scoring, wood from like the 60s. And Kelly said, you know, you're going to learn how to bowl on this. And that's why I think Morehead was always so much of a threat. We bowled in a dungeon. It literally was a dungeon.
Mhm.
You know, we didn't have the glam like Wichita does, or Vanderbilt, where they have those fancy, centers on their campus. We had nothing. And we learned how to bowl on dirt. And that's why I think we were always so successful. Unfortunately, my group, we could never get over the hump to bring home the title like where Kelly did a couple times. But the girls' team was always very successful at Morehead State. Always, always successful.
Yeah. Going through college bowling, I mean, what did that teach you about yourself and your own game?
It taught me that I'm not as good as I thought I was. Seriously. And it's the truth, because you think you're this hot shot coming out, you're going here, nobody knows who you are, and I'm going to show them who I am. And it just kind of like really just brought me back down to earth. You know, I was good, but I'm not as good as they are. I wasn't as good as Ronnie or, O'Sullivan or, those guys, but it also taught me how to bowl in a team atmosphere. I was never really familiar with that. It was always JBTs were individual, or we bowled doubles here and there, but now you're bowling 5-man, and it's different. And then when you go to Sunday and you're bowling the Baker games, it's even more different, because, they're depending on you even more than on Saturday when you're bowling your own score. Now you're responsible for 2 frames a game, and forget it. If you're bowling in the 5th and the 10th, you really have all the pressure on you. So it really taught me the team aspect of bowling, how to be a team player, how to cheer for everybody else, and how not to really, and I wear my emotions on my sleeve when I bowl, but how not to, like, when somebody opens or, damn or whatnot, it really taught me how to be more mature as a bowler, and it sticks today, it really does. But college bowling, if you don't bowl in college, I think you're missing out. It is a fantastic experience to bowl in college. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just being around that atmosphere, a week and a half ago really brought me back to the feeling of being up, having your whole team right up against the approach, and throwing, like you said, a shot in a Baker game that could mean the whole match.
And what's cool now is, when we bowled in college, our coaches were just regular people. Now look at it. Look at McKendree. You have Brian and Shannon O'Keefe. I mean, Shannon's arguably the best female bowler in the world. She's the head coach. At Vanderbilt, you have Josie Barnes. If you go down to Weber, you got Del Warren. You have all these big names that are in the bowling industry. Verity was with Scat for a while, and I don't think she coaches Scat anymore. But you have all these big names, and they're passing their knowledge on to the next generation. I would kill for that opportunity right now. If I was to go to a school and say, okay, Shannon O'Keefe should be my coach, or I can go to the ABC school, and bowling is a club sport, I'm going to McKendree. I want to learn, and I don't care if I'm holding the clipboard for 2 years. I will hold that clipboard, and I will pick Shannon O'Keefe's brain as much as I can holding that clipboard. Because even if I'm not bowling, listening and answering my questions, that'll process it more. You'll learn just as much from talking to her or any of those coaches than you would as throwing a bowling ball.
Yeah. So, especially when you're talking about teams like I was bowling on, where there was no coach, we just bowled. Was there a coach at Morehead, and what was that person like?
Bobby Brown was our guys coach, and Larry Wilson was the programs director, but he was more with the ladies. And Bobby bowled. He was a graduate of Morehead. We always had that structure and whatnot, but they always focus it more to the women's team, because the women's team was always a lot stronger, and that's fine. But I would never say anything bad about Morehead, but leaving it, if you wanted to learn how to bowl and really wanted like that, to go to the next level, Morehead wouldn't have been it. There were other programs that I think had a little better structure. Obviously Wichita was one of them, and then Saginaw Valley was another one back in the day. Indiana was one, but it never really had that big time presence like with a coach or whatnot. He was always there, but it wasn't anybody that was like Brian or Shannon or Dell or whatnot. It wasn't that big name. it was just the guy. He graduated and he lived in the area, and he was the guy. Great guy, but he wasn't. I felt like I knew more about the game than he did. Johnny knew more about the game than he did. Dave knew more of the game than he did. He was just like a figurehead, basically.
Sure. Yeah. So you're done at Morehead. You start bowling adult stuff, and you admitted you didn't get the motorhome and the PBA tour and all that, but you did do some regionals, didn't you?
I bowled my first regional at Jersey Lanes in Linden, New Jersey, the week after I graduated high school.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay.
And I finished dead last. I was the red leader, 110% dead last. And I bowled with, it was 4 guys in a pair. It was 10 games. I bowled with a guy named Al Jones, who passed away. He's a regional player from here. Steve Stein, he was another regional player from Staten Island. He's retired down to Florida. And I bowled with Roth. That was my cross. And that was my cross. It was just 2001. So Mark was he was kind of like making his comeback to bowl in the senior tour.
Yeah.
And I knew of Roth from our area. He was like a half an hour away from where I grew up. So when Roth was making his comeback, he actually drilled at the center that I was working at the pro shop. So Roth was always there practicing going on. So I kind of knew him in passing. And anybody who's listening who bowls a regional, go to the non-member meeting on Friday. If you've never bowled one before, go to the non-member meeting. I did not. So I went to the practice session. I left. I go to bowl Saturday, and I jumped Roth in the first or second frame. And the PBA has that double jump rule where you go, then you got to wait and whatnot. I didn't know what the PBA lane courtesy was. I didn't go to the meeting. Mark Roth wanted to rip my head off, and I had to bowl 10 games with this guy, and it was. I was bowling, 140 every game. He was making it very uncomfortable for me. I was on the verge of tears. And I said, that's it. I'm never going to bowl again. I'm done. This is not for me. I'm out of here. And I went back to the bowling alley to go to work. And the head mechanic there, his name was Marvin Gums. And Marvin always worked with me and whatnot. We practiced and whatnot. And he goes, you're better than that. He goes, get your head straight. You're going to go back. You bowl the next one. So I'm not bowling again. Not going to happen. About 3 months later, our sister center hosted a regional right after the Petraglia opened at Carolier, right down the road. And I bowled to win a spot, and I got a spot into the tournament. So now I have free entry. I have to bowl. So, after what happened with Roth, I was nervous to bowl again.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we can see it. It's on my wall. If you see the plaque on my wall, there's one below with a yellow piece of paper. Yep. That is my scorecard and my check from that regional.
Oh, okay.
So I was 2 in, and I got a check. So I got my check and I joined. Yeah. And, it was good. And then you can see on the other side of the wall, I have a champion's banner. Mm-hmm. It's hanging on the wall.
It's kind of behind you, but yeah.
Yeah. I do not have a regional title. So this is a story about my champion's banner. When I was 19, I went to Hawaii to bowl a regional. I said to my mother, look, this is a great opportunity. I said, there's a tournament in Hawaii. We were talking about going on vacation. Let's do it, Yeah. So we booked the flight. We went out there. So the day before the tournament was Friday. They had a sweeper. So it was in an Air Force base in Hawaii. It was Barbers Point Bowling Center, Barbers Point Air Force Base in Hawaii. And I went there and bowled. And it was myself and Tony Reyes were going back and forth the last 2 games. And I snapped them to win the sweeper. Oh, wow. So this is fantastic. It was like $500, whatever. Then I bowled the regional. I finished down the bottom again, whatever. But I got home, and a friend of mine knew that I won the sweeper. And I had that delivered to me about a month after. He goes, I know it's not really a professional title, but you did beat guys in a PBA event. So have that. And I will never give that up. So that's my story about my banner. But it was a pretty cool one. And I haven't bowled a regional since. I bowled the U.S. Open a couple times when it was locally. And that I bowled with Voss one year. And I was more of a fan than anything watching that. He was like an artist. And they were so hard. And watching Brian Voss just, split a hair down the lane and just run them over. It was like I'm sitting on the bench just like my mouth is, in awe of this guy. And it was really good. And that's when I realized, what? This is not for me. I'll bowl the local stuff. And I did it. I'm never going to have that moment of I could have done it. I should have done it. No, I did do it. Regardless if I finished last or if I won, I can go to bed at night knowing, hey, I did it.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna say second guess myself. I should have done it. No, I did it. And you know what? And a lot of people have that. A lot of people have that problem. They're keyboard tough guys, and oh, you bowled the U.S. Open, you finished 474 under. He's terrible. Well, you know what? My shoes were on for 18 games. I put the money up the bowl. You didn't. You have no room to talk. I'll go to Vegas and bowl the Tat or whatever it is. Okay, I bowled bad for a week. Oh, Mike went out there, wasted his money, donator. Well, where are you? And that's what I'm saying about bowlers in this generation now. Everybody talks, everybody's tough behind the phone. Go out there and bowl. If you think you're better than everybody else, go prove it. I'm out there trying to do it. And if I bowl well, I bowl well. If I bowl bad, I bowl bad. It doesn't matter to me. I don't pay my bills by throwing a bowling ball. There's 3% of the bowlers in the world make a living throwing a bowling ball.
Right.
I'm not one of them. You're not one of them. We're just fans, and we'll bowl the occasional tournament here or there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, really you get more people out from behind the keyboard and onto the lanes. That helps grow the game at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, you don't have that big, I don't know, the moment or, what you were referring to, but you do have that regional experience, that experience bowling the U.S. Open, like you mentioned. Not a lot of guys have that. I'll tell you something else not a lot of guys have is an 856.
With an open.
Tell me about it.
I came in, I was bowling on a Sunday morning league for a friend of mine. And look, I was young and I was out. I used to party a lot. I used to go out and, do my thing. And we used to bowl leagues Sunday morning at 9:00. And I was subbing for my buddy. Went out the night before. I was 22, 23 years old. We were just having fun. I was hungover. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I had a couple too many adult beverages the night before, and I showed up in the third frame. I was late. I got the league lead. I was hungover out of my mind. Had no practice, and I had the front 23.
Oh wow!
I had the front 23, and I left a solid 7 for my second 300. So the next game, I came out with the front 7. I'm like, I'm going to bowl 899. Like, this is just the most incredible thing in the world. And I was still very, very hungover. And I left the 4 pin in the 8th. I missed it by a country mile. It wasn't even close. I stoned a 9 in the next frame, made the spare. I struck out for 256 and 850 with an open. That was 2004. And back in 2004, that was a big number. 856, the monster number. Now, 850s get bowled every week. It makes me feel like I'm 20 behind the scoring pace now.
Yeah, but like you said, it was a different time, and to have that on your USBC list of accomplishments has got to be something that you have a lot of pride in, right?
Yeah, no, I really do. That won me, was high series in the county for our association for the year, so it was a pretty cool thing to put on the resume. But you hit the nail right on the head. It's a different time. The game has transitioned so much. The equipment is just so much stronger now. It is what it kind of takes almost takes a skill out of play now if you really think about it.
Yeah. So obviously in the beginning of this, we talk about you as a content creator, and that maybe doesn't happen without Justin Bone and Bone and Zano Zone. So how does all that start? You've got the relationship with Parker going back years, but tell me about the origins of this Bone and Zano Zone.
So I had always said I wanted to do something where I could get my voice out, like a podcast and whatnot. And people that know me know I'm very opinionated, and I love to speak my mind, good or bad. Here's the truth. If you don't like it, deal with it, right? And I was talking to Justin one day. I said, you know what? I said, you're so smart. Like, get me set up on something. Show me how to do it. He goes, well, why don't we do it together? So we started just shooting some ideas off the walls, and it's stuck. And the first one we ever did was in their basement, in the Bones basement. And we had called Tommy Jones after he had won, I think, Title 20. That was when he also got inducted to the Hall of Fame. So that was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe.
19, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 19. And we didn't know what we were doing. We were recording off an iPhone. We just didn't know. And we talked to Tommy and asked him. We had no script, no nothing. Mm-hmm. And at that point, Beef and Barnesy started. So kind of like, you know what? Let's watch them, see what they do. And we kind of watched other shows that were developing. And like, look, we can do this. Like, we know what we're talking about. We can just put our own spin on it and go with it. And we did that. And look, in the beginning, we were terrible. We really were. We were stepping on each other's toes with words. And then we kind of learned how to go with it. And we learned what this platform was, where now people could see us. Nobody wants to see my ugly face. They want to see Justin. But we've come a long way. We're now on season 3. Every Tuesday night, 7 Eastern. Come find us on YouTube and Facebook. Cheap plug, sorry.
No, please. That's what this is for.
But we've come a long way, and we've had some pretty cool guests on, just like you've had in your show. And I think what we're known for, what we thought have been our best shows so far, we covered the draft, the PBA League draft. We did that, and we had Chuck Gardner was on with us the whole time for 4 hours, and we went the whole show. We had brought guests on back and forth, and it was great. We're going to do it again this year when they have the draft. The draft's in April, I think it's April 3rd, right after, I want to say it's the Masters. I think it's in Vegas doing the draft. We're going to cover it again. We're going to have everybody back, and the rumor is we're going to be going up to Bayside Bowl to actually cover the PBA League up with those maniacs in Portland, Maine. So we will be there if everything stays the way it is and no restrictions come out. Bone and Zano will be up in Portland, Maine this year to cover the PBA League.
Wow,
cat's out of the
awesome. Bag. Hey, I love it. I love to break news here. When Parker was on this show, you guys were about to start, I believe, season 2. And I wanna play back for you what he had to say about your show, because I asked him about it. I was I was a fan. I'm still a fan. So here's what he had to say.
Mike Valanzano, who happens to be older, obviously, has a little bit more bowling knowledge, let's say, here locally. But between his local knowledge and between Justin traveling around and knowing all the players, it really made for a great show and a great time. Well, we all know the pandemic kind of shut down everybody, and you really couldn't go anywhere. So it was really a unique situation that they could run their show. It turned into a weekly affair. Sometimes I believe that they had 2 shows in a given week, and they really turned into something that was absolutely magnificent. And it, from my eyes, it kept bowling in the forefront in front of everybody else.
Absolutely.
I mean, is there anybody better than him? He is such a good guy.
He's incredible. Absolutely magnificent, puts bowling in the forefront. This is not a guy who's saying, my son's doing this thing, give it a try because you might like it. I mean, he's really giving this a big endorsement. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, coming from him, it's really just, it's a feather in our cap, and I think he hit the nail right on the head. I know a lot of the local stuff and a lot of more of the historical stuff where Justin really wasn't around. Like when he bowled on tour, Justin obviously wasn't here, but now I'm not as much knowledgeable as it is now where Justin is. So his knowledge of today's game, sprinkling my knowledge of yesteryear, we really have a good connection. And we've been very fortunate to meet several, celebrities in the bowling business or the bowling industry. We've had Belmo on our show. We've had Chucky Gardner. We had Corey Dykstra, the CEO of Brunswick, came on and talked to us for an hour and a half, and then we've even gone out doing more of like specials with like the Mega Buck guys. We had Timmy Mack and Barnes was on a show with us. Rudy Revs came on with us. So we've had so many celebrities come on. It's been fantastic. And then recently, what I thought was one of our best ones ever, we had Bo Burden on, and that was a cool one. Unfortunately, Bo's camera wasn't working that night. But you watched the tour growing up, I'm going to assume, on ABC.
Absolutely.
And
religiously.
Yeah. And he was the guy, and like when I introduced him, if you put on a football game now or a big baseball game in the World Series, you hear Joe Buck.
Yep.
That's the voice that's synonymous with sports now. Bowling back in the 90s, the 80s, the 90s was Bo Burden. And to talk to him for 40 minutes was just like a dream come true. And, I've been very fortunate to interview these people and talk to these guys. It's like my childhood heroes are coming, to the forefront now. Forget they don't bowl anymore, but it's a real great experience. And having Parker endorse it like that is it's everything. It really is. And, we get some recognition from other people in the business too. Yourself, Wriggles is another one. It's nice to have that recognition. Our name is out there. We goof around, we have some fun. We joke around with each other, but we try to get the point across in a fun way where people will tune in every week to watch us. And hey, what's going to happen next, or what are they going to say next? And everybody loves hearing my opinions, and I'm a little bit more outspoken than Justin is, so I have to calm it down sometimes. But we feed great off each other. We're really good friends, and whatever happens down the road happens. But we're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah. And, I agree. I mean, doing something like this really gives you that feeling of, these people are celebrities, but they're also regular guys who are perfectly willing to help you out and come on and do that stuff. But the question that I have for you is mainly because of how my show is formatted. Could you ever see yourself doing this by yourself, or is there too much value in having a co-host?
I could probably do it on my own, but I would never do that. And not just to the loyalty thing, but Justin's my ride or die. And it doesn't matter if it was him, if it was you. I started this with said partner. I'm not ditching the said partner. I'm not like that. I probably could do it one-on-one, but I think it's better because in our show, we feed off each other. And like I said to you previously, I have the more historical stuff, where Justin is very, knowledgeable with current stuff now. I'm not as knowledgeable. I'm not as rounded as much as he is right now. So I think if I was to do something like that, I would probably fail on my own. If we were to do something more, bring in the history and whatnot, I probably would do it, but I can't let my guy go. He's my dude. He's like my little brother, and I'm not letting him go anytime soon. And like I said, he's the brains of our operation. I'm very not tech savvy. I'm kind of more of like I put the shows together and Justin sets it up on the computer. I can't do that stuff. I can't let him go.
Sure.
It's like Tom Brady retiring. I can't let him go.
Yeah. What show do you think is number one for you? I mean, you mentioned a couple of the ones that you thought were great shows, the Bo Burton one. I thought this last one with Jeff Riggles and Larry Lichstein was tremendous. I love the one you guys did with Marshall Holman, mostly because I was about to interview Marshall Holman the next week. But, which one stands out to you if you had to pick one?
So the draft show was obviously the best one. That was the longest one, and we had everybody and their mother on that one.
Yeah.
But putting that aside, the one that I loved the best was we did one we called it Story Time, Mega Buck High Roller Story Time, and it was Justin and myself, and we had Chris Barnes, Timmy Mack, Chris Vialli, and Robert Smith, and we literally just sat back, and Justin and I had a drink, a bottle of water, and a thing of popcorn, and guys just tell stories. We wanted to hear stories from these guys because that Mega Buck scene was just something which is just out of this world, and let them talk. And that's where, Barnes made a living in the amateur ranks. Robert did the same thing. Timmy Mack's arguably the greatest international bowler to ever throw a bowling ball ever. His experiences from overseas, and they just talked and talked and talked. And one name kept coming up in the show was Rudy Revs. And now Rudy has since moved down to Mississippi, and out of nowhere, Rudy just popped into the chat and just said, hello. And we brought him on. So that was the one that really stands out the most. A lot of the guys that watch our shows, they were in that age group of like a little bit older than me, but a little bit younger than Barnes, like in that mid-40s kind of an age group.
Yeah.
And hey, we bowled against these guys. Bring them back. And when it was over, when are they coming back? We got to hear more. We got to bring Mike Lichstein on, bring this guy on. And we're in the works to do it. But that's the one was really good. I love the stories. I love hearing stories from the other guys, from their point of view. But they have so many great stories. When we had Belmo on, Belmo was a great spot. And he came on, Stewie Williams came on with Belmo, go figure, with both of them at the same time. So it's been really cool. But those are the two that I really think were the best. And this year we did, like I said, we did Bo. We did the Hall of Fame discussion last week with Jeff, and Larry Lichstein just popped in. And we have part 2 coming up next week. I'm not going to say it anymore, but part 2 is coming up next week of the Hall of Fame topic with another very reputable name in the bowling world. So you got to check out my Facebook page, who that is next week.
We chatted a little before the show. You're going to want to tune in. That's
Yeah.
going to be a good show.
Yeah.
You mentioned you're not going anywhere. What do you see as far as the future of this show, as far as maybe the format? Do you change anything? I mean, you know, Justin's in Wichita and you're here. Does anything change, you know, format wise, or what we as the content consumers are going to experience with Bone and Zano?
No, I don't think so. I think the only thing we just have to really be more concerned with is Justin's schedule, because he has classes, so we have to work around his schedule. You know, I'm flexible, obviously, most times. And I always joke around with Justin. I said, you know what, if you bail, there's another bone in the wings waiting. There's Brandon. There's Brandon waiting to go. You know, and if Brandon bails, well, we got the sister. We got Sydney ready to go. There's a line of bones ready to go. But no, I don't think we're going to change anything. We work around Justin's schedule, and the cool thing with this platform is, and as you're familiar, we don't have to do it live. We can always record it and then just air it at any time. So, again, we're not going to, and he can do it anywhere he wants, and it's pretty cool because he has better internet in Wichita than he does in New Jersey. I always joke around that they have this beautiful home with the worst internet in the world. And with Justin being in the dorm room, it's fantastic. His internet is solid, and we're good. We never lose him anymore. But I don't see any changes happening. And if we do happen to make a change, Brandon Bone's next in line to take Justin's role. And if you really want to see two maniacs go at it, let me and Brandon go sit down for an hour and talk ball, and that'll draw some ratings.
Well, I got to ask you, since when in Rome, right? Who's the best bowler to never win a PBA title?
Well, in my eyes, it's Richie Wolf. Bo Burden said different. In my time, I think it's Richie Wolf or Brian LeClaire. Yeah. If you ever watch Richie Wolf bowl, I mean, the guy was he was unbelievable for a lefty. He was just so silky smooth, got a handful, hit the line solid. It's amazing he never went to the winner's circle. LeClaire is the same way. LeClaire got snake bitten twice in the same year by Walter Ray. He led in Kennewick, Washington, lost by a pin. And then he led in Vegas in the showboat, but a month later, lost with 256 to Walter Ray. LeClaire left the 1-2 in the ninth, which is a terrible shot. Yeah, I know all this stuff. But those are the two guys that I can think of. And now, A.J. Johnson's another one.
Yep.
A.J. Johnson's another one. Oh, God, who's the kid? He just signed with Ebonite, the blonde-haired kid. A.J. Chapman's another one.
Oh, yeah.
AJ Chapman's another one. I'll give you another name, Derek Off. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Off, O-F-F. I don't know if I'm saying that correct or not.
Mm-hmm.
O-F-F. Yeah, he was another. We bowled in college in Nebraska. He bowled on tour for a while. He has an eagle or maybe two eagles. It's amazing. He never went to the winner's circle on tour. But going back to then I say bigger names. Tim Mack is another one. Timmy Mack is another one that I'm surprised never went to the winner's circle. And can I give a quick Tim Mack story?
Please.
Can I give you a Timmy Mack story?
I would love that.
At the Petraglia Petraglia Open at Carolier, this had to be 97, 98, maybe even a little bit later. This is when Timmy was world dominance, best bowler in the world, winning everything internationally and whatnot. And Timmy was from Garfield, New Jersey, which wasn't too far from Carolier. And, you read Bowler's Journal, and there was one cover of Timmy holding a globe in his hand. And I said, my God, I read all this stuff. This guy is the best bowler in the world. So I'm in the bleachers, and we're watching Walter Ray bowl. And there's two or three guys next to me, and Walter Ray is just doing Walter Ray does, strike and strike and strike. And I was talking to my buddy. I said, Walter Ray is the best bowler on the planet. I says, no, he's not. So what do you mean, no, he's not? I said, no. I said, Tim Mack is the best bowler on the planet. So this guy to the right of me is in a big, black sweater. And he goes, what did you say? I was 17, 18 years old. I said, huh? He said, who do you think the best bowler on the planet is? I said, Tim Mack. I said, the guy's fantastic. And he goes, Tim Mack, nice to meet you. And it was Timmy. And I had, yeah. I said, wait, no, you're not. And he goes, Tim Mack, nice to meet you. Thanks for the compliment. And we've been pretty good friends ever since. That's my Timmy Mack. That's how I first met Timmy Mack. And Yeah, it's a shame Timmy never went to the winner's circle. If he bowls the senior tour, and I think he's starting to bowl a little bit on the PBA 50, Timmy will go to the winner's circle. He is too talented to not win a title out there. I know he's had some operations or whatnot, but Timmy is just so talented and gifted with a bowling ball, and was a football player too at Penn State. He is just a phenomenal athlete and a great guy, really good guy. He should have won a title.
Yeah, I would have said AJ Johnson. Recently. And I can't remember for the life of me. Did Kelly Kaufman ever win one?
No.
Okay.
No.
I always look forward to seeing him bowl.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think Kelly Kaufman's problems were when he got to the show?
Oh, boy. Turn it a lot, throw it hard.
Can never make a spare.
Yeah.
His spare game wasn't the best out there either.
Yeah.
But he had some ball. I mean, he
had
a release. He had a release that in the early 90s that wasn't known yet.
Yeah.
He was almost like a two-hander throwing a one hand back then.
Yep.
I mean, and then I think resin probably hurt him.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. Because all of a sudden the other guys can move in and play the line that
he was able to cross 30 boards with urethane and get all over it. But once resin came out, you didn't have to do that.
Right. But
Kelly Kaufman, is he from Kansas? He's not really near your neck of the woods.
No, not really. Just, you see him on TV and you're like, wow, what's he going to do to that bowling ball?
Yeah, he was a great, he got a handful. Rudy Rev's another one got a handful.
Yep.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dip into the comments here. We've got a few.
Oh, boy.
Rocky Harrison, good evening, Fef. He's from Milwaukee. He says, honestly, the U.S. Open should be what it means. No matter who won last year, everyone should have to earn their way in. So,
flip a coin.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Brian.
That's my cousin. That's my cousin. Yeah.
Okay.
What a name, too. Brian Bowler, and he does not bowl.
That's a great name. Yeah. We've
not
got
a bowler.
Let's see. We've got a spam comment there that I'm going to skip right over. Derek McCoud.
Yeah, he's a fan of ours. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
What's up, everyone? And he says the best bowler never to win a title, Ken Samard.
Kenny Samard, he has a big baseball glove for a hand. My God.
Yeah.
He gets a handful too. He was a great player, Kenny Samard. I think he actually just got back into bowling from South Carolina. I know he took some time off. I think he just got back into it. My God, he made a couple shows in the mid 2000s. He finished second, I think, once or twice. What a player he was.
Okay. If you have seen our show before, you know that I do this thing called Off the Sheet. And that's where I ask you to challenge somebody else, and skill level you kind of throw out the window, but somebody who's kind of like us, who has a great story to tell and is passionate about the sport of bowling. So let's go with it. Mike Valenzano, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the Fef?
So I don't know if you've had this guy or not. And I haven't looked, and if you did, I apologize. I'll give you another one. But my first one, and I've talked to this guy for a long time, and we actually finally met face to face this past summer when I bowled the Nationals in Las Vegas, and we went to dinner together. I will challenge Matt McNeil. I will challenge my dear friend Matt Eagle McNeil, as I call him. Matt Eagle McNeil. Yes, Matt Eagle McNeil, future USBC Hall of Famer. If you want a guy that can give you stories, that knows the game, respects the sport and the history of it, Matt's your guy. Great guy, knows so much about it, and he'll be a great spot for you. So I challenge Matt Eagle McNeil to come on board.
There you go. I don't know Matt personally. But you are not the first to tell me that I should have him on. You're the first in this format. Okay. But, off camera in conversations, I've had people say, oh, you should really have Matt on. He'd be a great guest for you. And I agree. I mean, the USBC accomplishments, the, being in the industry with Storm. I mean, like you said, the stories, I would totally welcome that. Matt, if you're watching live or on replay, you're interested in, stepping up to the plate here, taking on Mike's challenge head on, let me know. You can direct message me on Facebook. I'm Andrew Pfeffer, or you can email me at bowlingwiththepfeff@yahoo.com. So our next live stream is coming up on Monday, February 7th, and you may know of our guest. I don't know him personally, but I'm excited to meet him because his name is Cody Schmidt. He is the latest in really a line of Wisconsin guys to shoot 900. He did earlier this season at Anchor Lanes in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And I'm guessing that you at least caught wind of this if you didn't know who he was before, right?
I never heard of him until that night. And didn't he bowl?
Oh,
I thought somebody put that up, that he bowled like 850 or 860 the very next night after his 900.
See, I don't know that for sure. I know he's bowled multiple 300s after that this season. But yeah, I'll have to ask him about that for sure.
He throws it great, by the way.
Yeah, he really does.
That's your next guest next Monday, huh?
That's my next guest, Monday, February 7th, 6:00, right here live on the channel. Really, set up by friend of the show, Mark Wukeman, who has a 900 of his own. He kind of helped make that connection. He was up there, introduced himself to Cody, and they had a nice chat. And here we go. He's coming on the show next week. So yeah, we certainly hope you'll join us. But Mike, it's been a pleasure. I mean, I really enjoyed hearing the stories from back in the day and how you got into content creation and all that stuff. Because I'll say it time and time again. I mean, we're really coming at it almost like from the same team, because we're all passionate about the sport and we want to grow it, right?
We're fans. We're fans first and foremost, and like I said to you earlier, if you're not a bowler, you don't understand what's inside. We have that little bit of
there you go, 850 and 804, says Rocky.
Yeah. But we have something that if you don't bowl, you don't understand what it is. And it's never going to die. I blew my shoulder out twice when I was in high school, and I couldn't bowl for several months, and I was just itching at the bit. Like I felt like I was naked. It's a part of you. It's never going to go away, and we need to grow the sport, support your local centers and whatnot. There's actually a hashtag Val for CEO of the PBA. When she had made the release as she was stepping down from that role, my phone was blowing up. I had 4 or 5 people message me, Mike, send your resume to the PBA. I said, what are you talking about? I said, send your resume to the PBA. I said, for what? Like, what are you talking about? The CEO just stepped down. You need to be the CEO of the PBA.
There you go.
So, well, let's not get carried away. But there's a hashtag on our show, Val for CEO.
Right.
But I am glad that we don't conflict with each other's shows. I don't want to compete direct times with you. Absolutely not. I don't play that way.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this. So you just announced your guest for next week. I will announce my guest for next week.
All right. Hit me with it.
So as you saw, we had our Hall of Fame show. Justin and I, we had Jeff Riggles on, and we had Larry Lickstein on. We talked about the Hall of Fame and bowlers that should be in the Hall of Fame. So we had one guy who was commenting on the Facebook page and whatnot. And when this guy says something, it made us take a step back. Like, wow, like he's there. He needs to be involved in this. So we are going to sit with what I think is, Justin agrees with me. You may think the same. I don't know your view on it, of the greatest person ever put on a pair of bowling shoes and throw a bowling ball. Walter Ray Williams will be joining us next Tuesday night at 7:00 to talk about the Hall of Fame. So we're going to talk with Deadeye for the first time next week. So that is my guest next week. We have Walter Ray next week.
That is a giant of a guest, and I'm sure it will be a giant of a show. So
would that be your opinion as well? Do you think Walter's the greatest to ever throw a bowling ball?
If he's standing right in front of me, I say yes for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But he's got to be. I mean, for me, it's either Walter or Earl. Walter or Earl. It's one of the two. I mean, Belmonte's close. Roth is close. But yeah, for me, those guys are either 1, 2, 2, 1, however you want to.
They're the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, they are. So yeah, congratulations on booking that one. You gonna ask him about any given Saturday afternoon?
No, I'm not. I'm not. I haven't. Normally, when we get our guests, I start planning it out like the week before and whatnot, and I haven't thought about what to ask the guy yet.
Sure.
I mean, he's seen everything. He's won everything.
Yeah.
There's nothing on that man's resume that he hasn't done.
Right.
You know, and now he bowls league two-handed. He bowls two-handed. Like what more can this guy do at age 60? I mean, he's just he's a Goliath of the game, and it's going to be an honor to talk to Walter next week.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that.
And then you're going to be our next guest. So we're going to bring you on. So
All
don't
right.
go too far. I know I'm going to be bugging you, so don't go too far.
Hey, I'm here whenever you need me. But
and you can send me a jar of that salsa too.
It's good stuff. Hey, we don't push bad product around here. It is good stuff.
Are you still is Dale's Dills, Dale's Pickles, Dale Traber? Is he still in the pickle business in Wisconsin?
Pickle business?
I thought Dale Traber did pickles.
I don't know if he does pickles.
I thought it was pickles. I thought somebody said Dale Traber was in the pickle business. Dale's Dills, I thought it was. I don't know. Maybe I'm speculating fake news. I'm sorry.
And honestly, I mean, I used to work for him back in the 90s, but I haven't, I just had him on the show a few weeks ago.
I saw that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since we actually sat and had a conversation. So he, for all I know, he may have been into pickles, but I never heard about that.
Awesome.
All right, Mike. Hey, thanks again for coming on. We're going to end it there. Everyone be just and fear not, and we'll see you again next week.